All right, now in this next module, I'm going to be walking you through the three main types of CRO that I have come across, and kind of explain the pros and the cons of each, and essentially like our journey through the CRO process to help you better understand why we use the CRO style that we do now, and kind of just walk you through the different options that you have when it comes to actually improving again the customer journey in order to scale your business further. So the first strategy here is I think where most people start, because it's definitely where we started. And to be honest, I call it the send it strategy because that's really what you're doing. If you've never seen this video, it's an incredible video that is a Canadian in his truest form of just absolutely sending it. As you can see there, a lot of times you crash and burn. Okay. And so what the send it strategy is it essentially is when, let me just go ahead and update my camera here. So the send it strategy is when you don't test anything and you essentially just execute. Okay. You go with what you believe is best and you just hope that it works better. Now, don't get me wrong, there are times when it does work better. But with that said, majority of the times you have no metric that tells you that the changes that you made are actually working. And so the reason why this is really important is because a lot of the times when you make changes on your website or you update something or move to a new theme or whatever it is, you're doing it with the intention that it's going to help your conversion rate. And logically, a lot of the times, like say, for example, just doing something like adding reviews is a great way, or adding FAQs is a great way to, again, improve the customer journey to scale your business further. With that said, what happens a lot of the times, and I can say this from experience, is your actual execution of it is more times than not the problem as to why things don't work. To give you an example, we recently, with a client, decided that we wanted to add evergreen reviews all the way across their site because they only had a bunch of different SKUs and they only had reviews on their top selling products. But for anyone else that was maybe looking at these other products, we wanted to make sure that they saw that there was a lot of customers that had shopped. And in the process of doing that, our CRO team had decided that we added some kind of extra code that showed it on top of it. And then basically what ended up happening is it ended up actually overruling the standard reviews that we had. And so now when someone was trying to look at a review for a specific, or the reviews for our, for example, our best selling products that actually had reviews, it was just a bunch of different products that actually wasn't that product, which then when we split tested it, which I'm going to get to as another strategy in a second, we'll bring this back, it ended up actually hurting conversion rate very badly. And I was like, there's no way that something that makes logical sense should be hurting conversion rate. And we realized that it was actually just an execution issue. And so a lot of the times when you're following the send it strategy, it's not that your strategy is flawed, it's that the execution is flawed. And even then, we've had times where we really think that an optimization is going to help improve conversion rate, and we've been humbled very, very hard. There's times where we're just like, how is that not converting? And then we look at it later and we're like, oh yeah, this does kind of suck. So the main thing here is that if you're going to follow the send it strategy, I would only recommend that you do it if you're a beginner and you need a website, or you're just like, yeah, like I don't really have anything, like I'm just bare bones, and you want to try to, optimize your site with, some of the things that I talk through the course, then you can definitely do that. But with that said, I honestly would only recommend this to people who are maybe wanting to do a bit of a rebrand, or for example, just essentially want to work with a team that actually knows, excuse my Canadian, that actually knows their shit. And so the team over at Audit, and I'm not really like trying to tell you to go work with these guys, but I know these guys personally and they're really, really good at what they do. And if you're wondering what they do, they essentially just come in and they give you a fresh perspective on their customer journey, and they do UI UX that's based off of tons of different amounts of data, and they just have what is kind of considered, I would say, quote unquote, best practices of things that, just logically make sense. Like for example, if there is no photo that shows how big this product actually is, adding in a video video of someone using it in your product order form is probably going to help conversion rate. Okay. And so when it comes to sending it, these guys are actually Canadian as well. This is probably the only time I've seen the send it strategy work. With that said, it's not guaranteed, because unless you're split testing it, there is no guarantee that it's actually going to, again, allow you to scale your business further. But that is the send it strategy. So that's number one. That's where we started. The second strategy is more of the scientific method, okay? The real nerdy stuff, right? We got big man Bill Nye in here. We're talking about science, all right? We're really getting nitty gritty. And up until, just recently, we actually followed this strategy, okay? And the scientific method is great because it actually forces you to test things in a standard A/B fashion. Like we have product page A and then we have product page B. So for example, if we go down to this section here, what we would do is, if this was our standard, we would then come in and we would split test this, and this would give us data that says, hey, this version is X% better or worse than the control version. Okay. Now, when it comes to that process, there's a few different issues. Number one, you have to test things until they are actually statistically significant and statistically powered. Now, if you're like, what the heck do those things mean? What I want you to imagine, and let me go ahead and have a little fun. All right, so it's getting pretty crazy, but as you can see, I have, let me get my video a little bit bigger here, but this is gonna bring home the example that I promise I'll speed up. Right here, I have a toonie. If you are never heard of a toonie before, basically what it is this is $2 for us in Canada. One side has a bear and the other side has if I can zone in on it, a queen. Okay. And so for example, what I would do is I would flip this coin, and that was a terrible flip, but it landed on the bear, right? So I'd be like, okay, well, I flipped it once, it landed on the bear, 100% chance that it lands on bear. But I know, I'm pretty smart. So I'm going to flip this again. There's a proper flip. And now it landed on the queen. Okay, so now it's 50-50. And then I'm going to flip this again. It landed on the queen again. Okay, so 2 out of 3 times it's landed on the queen. And I'm going to flip it a 4th time. And look at that. It landed on the queen again. And so now I might be like, well, there's 75% chance that when I flip this coin, it lands on the queen. And I might go to Vegas and I might take all my money out and be like, 75% chance that this lands on a queen. And very quickly you realize that that's a very obnoxious example, but that is what statistically significant basically means, is you have to get enough data. You have to flip the coin enough times for you to actually get down to the real percentage of that it is, which is a 50-50 chance, right? It's 50-50 that you land on heads or that you land on tails, right? Or in this instance in Canada, bear or queen. And so the thing with that is statistical significance has to come, because there are literal examples where we have tested an AA version, which means, let me just actually go ahead and pull it up. So for example, here's the split test that we ran, right? 10.29% increase in conversion rate. We had 100 orders on each variant and over 8,000 visitors as well. And according to Intelligems here, which is our split testing tool, and this is not me saying that Intelligems is a bad tool, and I'll actually show you Intelligems later, but this had a $361 average order value, and this had a $344 average order value. And if I was to tell you that the difference between these two pages is literally nothing, you might be like, how, what? Like, what do you mean? And this is after 8,000 people have been through this test, and we've had over 100 orders. It's still showing a 10% increase in conversion rate. And then for some reason over here, almost an additional $20 in average order value on the control group. Okay. And so the reason why it is so important to make sure that not only are you getting enough orders, but it's actually what we call statistically powered, which is even more nerdy, right? Don't make me bring back Bill, where you actually have enough data that says the likelihood that what you have just tested is actually true takes a long time. Okay. So you need at least 300 to 1,000 orders to actually have any kind of confidence that the test that you've ran is actually true. Okay. And then on top of that, you never really know if it had the impact that it said it does, right? Like I might be really excited that I just got a 10% increase on my AA test, right? And I go ahead and I take the test down, I launch it permanently on the store. There is no guarantee unless you get to, a really high percentage of statistical significance and statistically powered that will actually continue moving forward. Okay, like for example, it could have just been a fluke. And so the long story short here is it takes a long time and you need a massive team to do this, or a massive amount of money to do this, because not only does it take, for example, a strategist and then a copywriter and then a designer and then a developer and then someone to QA and then an account manager. And I've done this. I had over $25,000 a month in payroll for my CRO team, and it drove me absolutely insane because we were spending so much time, and to be honest, our clients really weren't getting great results. Okay, it said on paper that they were getting great results, and we had tons of tests that said like we're going to add 20,000 a month in profit and 50,000 a month in profit, but at the end of the day, it's like the next month after we executed that test, there was no an extra $50,000 a month in profit in their business. Okay. And then our metric becomes, well, if we weren't doing CRO, I couldn't even imagine. Well, we wouldn't, we'd be $50,000 less. No client's going to buy that. And for you, you aren't going to care because you're trying to scale. Okay. And so at the end of the day, and just as a side note, it is so much QA. So when you are doing this, it's QA and then QA and then QA, and then you do more QA. And then after you do more QA, you do even more QA. And if you're wondering what QA means, it just means like you're checking to make sure things aren't broken. But at the end of the day, you can tell this is a soft spot for me right now. I only recommend this for brands that are, I'd say, doing above $1 million a month or doing above 300 to 500 orders per day. If you're getting 300 to 500 orders per day on your store and you launch a split test, 2 weeks will go by, and as long as it's a decently high traffic page, you should get 1,000 orders per variant, or 1,500 orders per variant, which is going to give you some better data. But if you're not getting that kind of volume, there's absolutely no reason to spend the amount of money on doing this stuff, or spend, for example, go and hire, which I got to give a huge shout out to Dylan, who has taught me a ton of stuff. This is his website. This is his company at splittesting.com. You're going to pay these guys $10,000 to $20,000 to $30,000 a month to do CRO for you, right? And they're going to do it right, but it takes a long time. Okay. And so even brands at the biggest level run their tests for a minimum of like 2 weeks. And so when we're thinking about this, it really, really is only for brands that are at way more scale, and for people who really want to dial in their entire website, which is Canadian for saying to really go in and just optimize the entire website and help you scale your business that way. But for most of you, I would not recommend this. And for me and what I care about, it's not really of interest. Okay. I care about scaling my ad account further rather than actually, just optimizing a store and having cool looking reports. Okay. I want more money in my bank account than I want cool looking reports, which brings me to the final strategy. And if you've been waiting and you've been patient, I'm very excited to walk you through what we call ad focused CRO. Okay. And this is the money printer. All right. And this is what we're going to be diving into. I'm going to have some other things around split testing because I know a lot about split testing. We've been doing it for the last year, and there's a lot of good to it. But at the same time, if you ask me, this is all I care about. Okay. I don't, Bill's cool with his science and stuff, but this is what I care about. Right. So what is ad focused CRO? Well, ad focused CRO is testing pages and offers specifically for your ads. Okay. I'm going to show you something really cool here that is probably going to change your perspective on what you think you should be doing when it comes to CRO. All right, so here we are in a great tool called Atria. And what I want to do is just show you actual data. Okay, and now this is an ad tool. We're going to get to this about how we use this for CRO, but I want you to take a look at this. Okay, Athletic Greens. This is a brand that everybody knows. Massive, 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 massive brand. Their top 2 pages here, almost, I don't know what that is, 70% or 60% of their traffic is going to landing pages, okay, /campaign /DCT, D35CT offer. Okay, it's a landing page. That's what they're sending to, right? It's not their home page, not their product page. This is a landing page. Okay, let's take a look at The Ridge, another really big company and brand, right? Pages /EDC, their number one page where most of their ads are going is a landing page. I can't open it because it redirects me to Canada and it kind of annoys me, so I can't hack it. But 13.3%, majority of their traffic is going towards a landing page. Here's another brand, Hexclad. Massive, 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 massive brand. 28.6% of their traffic goes to a landing page, get.hexclad. You want to see what it looks like? Oh, there it is. It's a landing page. Okay. Here's another one, Mudwater. Huge brand. Everybody knows this brand, right? How about this? 43.7% of their traffic goes to a landing page. They are running over 1,400 ads, and 43% of them are going to a landing page. And just for fun, let's do one more. This is a brand that a guy on Twitter runs as well. I think people have heard of him before, Zach Stuck. But look at this. Over 31% of their traffic going to a landing page. Pages, right? So what I'm trying to point out here, let's get out of that horrendous lighting, is that the biggest and best brands are also doing scientific CRO. They probably are, don't get me wrong. But you know what they're doing with their ads? They're sending them to pages that are actually aligned with their ads, because you know what they know? They know that the customer journey from someone who is clicking an ad is a lot different than someone who hears from a friend or sees them organically or just Googles their product. Okay, and Google, don't even get me into the landing pages that people use for Google. But at the end of the day, is Ad Focus CRO allows us to test pages and offers specifically for our ads. It allows us to optimize pages around our ads, and it really only matters, like all we need to see, we don't need any StatSig powered, I don't need to pull out the coin again. All I need to do is see a good return on ad spend or CPA, and then I can scale immediately and get the benefits. Okay, I don't need to wait 2 weeks or wait a month. If I run a page with one of my ads and it's at a 4.5x return on ad spend when before it was at a 1, what am I going to do? I'm just going to start scaling, right? It allows you to scale immediately. It's very, very, very obvious the impact it has as well. It lets you spend more money on ads, which automatically makes you more money. So I don't need my report to say, hey, we think you're going to make this much. I'm just going to know how much more I make. And then on top of that, it's incredibly fast and it's incredibly efficient with what I'm going to show you in the rest of this program. Okay, so what I recommend this for is for every level of brand, okay? And for anyone who wants to scale further with ads, the biggest of the best and people that are just starting out, okay? The tools that I'm going to show you, and the most important thing with this is that you have to be able to do these efficiently and you have to be able to do them fast, okay? If it takes you a month or 2 months to do a landing page, you're moving too slow, okay? It's going to take way too long. Again, the name of the game here is speed. If we want to wait a month or 2 for a landing page, we'll just go do scientific split testing, right? What I want to do is I want to move fast and I want to test a lot of pages to see which one can become my top landing page, all right? And so that is what we're going to focus on here, okay? We're going to get into Ad Focus CRO, and I'm going to show you exactly how it helps you scale your brand a heck of a lot further than the first 2 strategies, and I cannot wait to dive into it.